In 1991, a group of civilian divers made a shocking discovery. While exploring the ocean off the coast of New Jersey, they found something that didn't make sense. A submarine lying on the sea floor in a place where no submarine was supposed to be. Over the following years, they uncovered a mystery that would change what many people believed about World War II. What they found inside this sunken German submarine would leave everyone speechless. This is the true story of the German U-boat known as U-869. During World War II, the Atlantic Ocean was a deadly battleground. German submarines, called U-boats, silently hunted Allied ships, sinking thousands and trying to cut off crucial supply routes. These U-boats were a powerful weapon used by Nazi Germany to spread fear and destruction across the seas. Out of the hundreds of U-boats launched by Germany, many were sunk or captured, but some simply disappeared. One of the most mysterious of these missing submarines was U-869. U-869 was launched in 1943. It was one of the largest long-range submarines Germany had built. It was about 250 feet long and had 6 torpedo tubes. The submarine was built to travel across the Atlantic and attack ships in Allied waters. It was led by Captain Helmut Neuerberg, a skilled officer. In late 1944, as the war began turning against Germany, U-869 was sent on its first combat mission. According to official records, it was supposed to head toward the area near Gibraltar. That location was important because many Allied ships passed through it. However, during that time, the German military was falling apart. Communications were poor, orders were often confused, and records were incomplete. It's possible that U-869's mission was changed without anyone officially noting it. On February 11, 1945, American ships near Gibraltar reported that they had attacked and sunk a German U-boat. Based on the time and location, the U.S. military believed that submarine was U-869. Germany, which was in chaos at the time, never corrected this report. So for decades, everyone believed that U-869 had been sunk off the coast of Gibraltar with all 56 crew members lost. But there were problems with this story. First, no photos or sonar images ever showed a wreck near Gibraltar that matched U-869's size or shape. Wartime reports were often based on quick visual sightings made during combat, and mistakes were common. Second, German records never clearly stated where U-869's final location was. In fact, the last known radio message from U-869 came when it was still in the North Atlantic, thousands of miles away from Gibraltar. After that, there was complete silence. No one knew what had happened to it. For more than 40 years, U-869 remained a mystery. Families of the crew had no answers and no remains to visit. Many believed the case was closed. But some divers and amateur researchers thought differently. In the summer of 1991, a group of experienced divers, including John Chatterton and Richie Kohler, were exploring wrecks off the coast of New Jersey. The area is known to have many shipwrecks due to storms, accidents, and war. These dives were difficult and dangerous, involving deep water, strong currents, and limited visibility. About 60 miles off the coast, at a depth of 230 feet, their sonar picked up something unusual. It looked long and narrow, like a torpedo or a submarine. When they dove down to investigate, they were shocked. They had found a submarine wreck. It was old, heavily damaged, and tangled in fishing nets. At first, there were no markings to show what it was. The divers couldn't tell if it was American, Russian, or German. They gave it a nickname, Yohu, because its identity was a mystery. Over many dives, the team brought back pieces of the wreck. They found gauges and equipment labeled in German and items marked with German military symbols. But the key discovery came when they found a butter knife engraved with the name Horenberg. By researching naval records, they matched this name to a real crew member on U-869, George Horenberg. Later, they recovered parts with serial numbers that matched those from the German shipyard that had built U-869. In 1997, after 6 years of diving and research, the U.S. Navy officially confirmed that the wreck was U-869. This meant everything people had believed about the submarine's fate was wrong. It hadn't been sunk near Gibraltar. It had gone down off the coast of New Jersey, 3,000 miles away. The divers had solved a mystery that had remained hidden for decades. Their discovery was considered one of the greatest underwater finds in history, especially because it was done by civilians without help from any government or military. But the discovery raised new questions. Why was U-869 near New Jersey in the first place? Its mission orders said it was going to Gibraltar. Some believe the submarine may have received new orders or was mistakenly sent in the wrong direction. Others think there was a communication failure. No surviving records explain this part of the story. Every man on board U-869 died with the submarine, taking those answers with them. Even more puzzling was the question of how the submarine sank. Two main theories exist. One says that U-869 was accidentally destroyed by one of its own torpedoes. During World War II, German torpedoes sometimes malfunctioned. One of the worst failures was the circle runner, a torpedo that would turn in a wide circle and hit the very submarine that launched it. This happened more than once during the war. Some people believe that this is what happened to U-869. Others believe that U-869 was sunk in combat by two U.S. Navy ships, the USS Howard D. Crowe and the USS Coiner. These ships reported attacking a submarine near New Jersey on February 11, 1945. The same day U-869 was said to have been sunk near Gibraltar. It's possible that the submarine they attacked was actually U-869. Some evidence from the wreck supports this theory, but nothing has been confirmed with certainty. No matter how it sank, the story of U-869 is a reminder that even in war, some stories remain hidden for years. Without the hard work of dedicated divers and researchers, the submarine would still be lying unknown at the bottom of the sea. The truth was buried for decades, but now, at least part of the mystery has been uncovered. After World War II, the U.S. Navy launched a carefully planned attack using depth charges. This attack was believed to have sunk a German submarine, later thought to be U-869. The Navy recorded it as a successful mission and listed the submarine's sinking in their official records. Even when the wreck of U-869 was discovered years later off the coast of New Jersey, far from where the Navy claimed to have sunk it, they continued to say it was their attack that caused the submarine's destruction. At first, this explanation seemed simple and believable. But as researchers looked closer, many questions began to appear. The first issue was timing. U-869 had been ordered to sail toward Gibraltar, not the U.S. East Coast. If U.S. Navy ships had destroyed a submarine near the American coast, why didn't they connect it to U-869 earlier? The second issue was the location of the wreck. The actual site where U-869 was found doesn't match exactly with the coordinates given in the Navy's reports from the attack. It's close, but not the same, which made people suspicious and uncertain. Then came the third problem. Divers who explored the wreck found that some of the submarine's torpedo tubes were still closed. If U-869 had been in combat, why hadn't it fired any weapons? The submarine seemed to be taken by surprise. As the divers spent more time examining the sunken vessel, the mystery grew. The front part of the submarine was badly damaged, crushed inward as if by a strong internal force. Some compartments inside were completely collapsed, which suggested an explosion from within rather than from an outside depth charge. Some areas on the outer hull showed damage that could have been caused by a depth charge, but the marks were too light to suggest a direct hit. Surprisingly, the control room and torpedo room were still mostly intact, although they were damaged. This made it look like a single explosion had happened inside the submarine, maybe caused by a torpedo that exploded before it was ever launched. Adding to the confusion was the position of the crew remains. The bones were scattered, and there were no signs that anyone had tried to escape. There were no signs the crew tried to surface or perform an emergency exit. It all seemed to happen very quickly, leaving no time to react. The military records from that time don't help much. For many years, experts believed U-869 had never come near the American coast. Also, the submarine that the Navy believed they had sunk was never positively identified. This left a lot of room for error. It's possible that the US Navy did destroy a German U-boat, but maybe it wasn't U-869. Or maybe U-869 had already been lost earlier, possibly destroyed by a malfunctioning torpedo. Some people believe that both of these explanations could be wrong. There is a chance that U-869 was on a secret mission with orders that were never recorded. That would explain why it showed up in an unexpected place and why there was no radio contact. It might also explain why, even years after the wreck was found, the details were kept secret. As more evidence was found, the truth only became harder to see. Both main theories had some facts supporting them, but neither fit perfectly. The story of U-869 was still a mystery. One detail haunted the divers. The torpedo tubes were still sealed. If the submarine was in battle, why didn't it fire? If it was sunk by its own torpedo, why was there no launch record? If it was caught in an ambush, why did it die with all weapons unused? It became even more tragic to imagine that U-869 had traveled across the ocean in silence, only to be destroyed without firing a single shot. This raised a disturbing question. What was U-869 doing off the US coast in the first place? Then, in late 2024, the divers made a shocking discovery. Thanks to new technology and better dive planning, they were finally able to reach a part of the submarine that had been sealed off for decades. The section was collapsed and rusted shut, but still mostly untouched since the submarine sank in 1945. Inside, the divers found what one of them described as a time capsule. There were personal lockers, storage crates, and even footlockers still sealed with rubber. Some items were the usual things you'd expect on a Nazi submarine: old food tins, logs, and clothes. But then they found something surprising. They found a ceremonial dagger that belonged to a high-ranking officer. The blade had markings used by elite German naval units. Alongside it, there was a Navy dress uniform with a Nazi armband and the Iron Eagle symbol, incredibly well preserved. The most shocking items were deeper inside. Sealed documents, propaganda leaflets in English meant to stir unrest in America, and a coded book marked as property of Nazi Germany's military intelligence agency. This discovery was so serious that it was never officially made public. The reason was simple. If true, it meant that U-869 might not have been just patrolling the ocean. It might have been trying to land spies or dangerous material on US soil. If that were true, it would change what we thought we knew about the Nazis' actions in the Western Hemisphere. There was one more strange piece to the story. Of the 56 men who were supposed to be on U-869, all were believed to have died when it sank. But there was one man whose name was missing from the death list. His name was Herbert Gashowski. He had originally been assigned to U-869, but before the submarine left port, he got sick and was removed from the crew. Another sailor took his place, and U-869 left without him. At the time, this seemed like a small change, but it ended up saving his life. For years, Herbert believed the same story everyone else did, that U-869 had been sunk near Gibraltar. That's what the records said. But in the 1990s, a team of American divers searching off the coast of New Jersey found a sunken submarine. They started contacting families of the original crew and eventually found Herbert in Germany. He was older by then and still remembered his time training with the men on U-869. At first, Herbert didn't believe the divers. He had been told for over 50 years that the submarine sank near Spain. But the divers showed him pictures of the items they found, including a knife with the name of George Horenberg, someone Herbert had trained with. He confirmed the name and shared memories of the crew and their training before deployment. He explained that his removal from the mission was not dramatic, just a routine change because of illness. When asked how he felt, Herbert said he was thankful to have survived but deeply saddened for the men he once trained with. He didn't look for attention and didn't give many interviews. But he kept in touch with the divers and helped confirm the identities of crew members, giving important information that helped complete the story from the German side. Herbert passed away in 2005. He never learned about the secret chamber found in 2024, or maybe he did and just chose never to say anything. Either way, U-869's story remains one of the most puzzling and mysterious submarine cases in history.